Luis Toledo admitted to killing his wife in a fit of anger, but he says it was his neighbor, Tyshawn Jackson, who killed his stepkids.
Why did Tyshawn kill your children?
He said he wanted to go to jail for murder.
That was the day after Yessenia Suarez and her 2 children went missing, October 24th.
On October 26th, his story evolved from I killed my wife and Ty killed the kids, and I have no idea where the bodies are, to I'll never tell you where they're located. And then within just a few short minutes, tried to kill himself.
In the bathroom just outside the interrogation room, Luis breaks the mirror and begins cutting his arm.
I think that in that moment he was riddled by guilt. I think that he felt that the walls were closing in around him and he was looking for a way out.
Thankfully, police find a way in.
We had to use a ram tool and actually ram some holes into the door. And then I took a taser and I put the taser through one of the holes and tased him. And then he fell down forward and we were able to push the door in enough and then pull him out.
Luis survives and will stand trial for the second-degree murder of his wife, Yessenia, as well as the first-degree murders of his stepkids, Talia and Michael. But Assistant State Attorney Ryan Will says this was no slam-dunk case.
In the history of the United States, there have been fewer than 500 cases that have been litigated successfully where someone has been killed and there's no body. In this particular case, we had 3 people killed and 0 bodies.
Far from shying away from that issue, prosecutors make it part of their opening arguments, using it to illustrate Toledo's callousness.
When the defendant is asked where the bodies can be located, his answer is a simple one. His answer is, I'll never tell you where the bodies are.
When you don't have a body, it's a daunting challenge. In this case, we had to demonstrate his anger, his jealousy, his rage toward his wife.
And one of the ways they were able to do that was by calling to the stand the last known person to speak to Yessenia.
Tell us your name, please. Kevin Dredden. Can you spell your last name for us? Dredden.
Kevin Dredden was Yessenia's love interest. Kevin's testimony essentially showed how angry Luis Toledo was in the moments leading up to the murders.
Yeah, well, the defendant told me, he said, well, tell me the truth or I'm going to smack the out of you. He said that to you? Yes.
Kevin, who says the brief affair with Yessenia was a mistake, talks about the confrontation at Yessenia's office the day before she disappeared. And also about the phone call he had with her just before she vanished the next morning.
She wasn't herself. In what way? How she was speaking, it sounded like maybe it would be coming from someone that was drugged.
Police believe sometime not long after that call ended at 1:03 a.m., Yessenia lost her life. But then, Luis wasn't denying killing his wife.
The primary argument of the defense was that Luis Toledo killed his wife as a part of a rage that came from an adulterous affair. Then the defense argued that Tyshawn Jackson was responsible for killing the kids.
But prosecutors felt they had the best evidence to fight that claim.
Tell us your name, please.
Tyshawn Jackson.
The man himself.
How long he lived next door?
At least like 2 or 3 years already.
Ty's testimony was the linchpin in our case. If the jury was able to see Ty and kind of get a sense of who he was, then they would understand that he wasn't capable of killing 2 children.
You like the kids?
Yeah, they're nice kids.
Do you have anything to do with their death?
No.
Tyshawn says he was close to his neighbor's kids, breaking down at the mere implication he might be involved.
Need a second?
What we were able to show was that Ty was just a normal 19 or 20-year-old kid who got pulled into something he wanted no part of.
So then why would Luis try to pin the murders on Tyshawn anyway?
You weren't even there, were you?
No, sir.
To kill your wife in second-degree murder doesn't get you the death penalty in the state of Florida, but to kill 2 kids in first-degree murder can. And so their entire argument hinged on the death of the 2 children.
For weeks, prosecutors bring in one witness after another, present exhibit after exhibit, and of course, there were Toledo's own words.
She fell down on the floor, holding her neck, looking at me.
The defense filed a motion to suppress his statements, but the judge allowed most, if not all, of the statements into evidence.
And speaking of statements, at one point in the trial, Luis, a former Latin king, is seen gesturing what looks like gang signs. The judge takes notice and issues a warning, but prosecutors aren't fazed, saying the only messages that matter are the ones Luis sent Yessenia in her final days.
The text messages are the key to the case. They show us how the family unit existed and then how the family unit came apart. And they told the story of these two people in the days and weeks leading up to the murders.
At the end of the trial, there was still a lot prosecutors couldn't prove, but they felt confident they had made their case.
We have no idea how they died. The only thing we can tell you is the reason. Luis Toledo killed his wife because he was mad at her for having an affair. Luis Toledo killed the kids because they were witness to the wife's death.
But would the jury agree 4 years after Yessenia and the kids vanished?
Bring the jury in.
It was time for a verdict.
We, the jury, found the defendant Luis Toledo as to count 1 of the indictment as follows. Guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
Guilty for the second-degree murder of his wife Yessenia, and guilty for the first-degree murders of her kids, Talia and Michael.
All of our evidence demonstrated that Luis Toledo was solely responsible for the death of these 3 individuals.
At sentencing,
I don't believe you're remorseful. And as such, you will receive no mercy from the court.
the jury decides against the death penalty, and Luis is instead given 3 consecutive life sentences.
Luis Toledo will spend the rest of his life in prison.
It brings only partial comfort to the family's loved ones.
There was a little peace of mind that he will not get out there and hurt anybody else.
May the action of that night haunt him forever.
To this day, we have no idea where the family is. And I think that's probably my biggest regret, is that I wasn't able to bring them home.
Unfortunately, through all the lies, there is one thing Luis said that almost everyone believes.
He'll never tell us whatever happened to those children and where their bodies are located.
I hope we find their bodies. I don't know if we ever will, but we'll never stop looking.
In the meantime, Yessenia's mother says she will continue starting every day with that same simple prayer.
I would love to find my family so I can put them in the proper place where me, their father, and the family can go. And I hold on to the promise of God that I will see my family again.
Remember the hand gestures Toledo was caught making in court? An official with the state attorney's office said they analyzed those hand gestures, and it appears he was signaling, go ahead, just do it. But at this point, it's unclear who he was making the hand gestures to. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.